And then my husband wakes up on January 6th of 2009, puts on his suit and tie, grabs his briefcase, gives me and my 3 kids at the time a kiss goodbye, tells us he loves us, and walks out the door knowing he's not coming home. So he goes missing for 24 hours. Texting, calling, no answer, no response. The next morning, I get a
24 hours.
call, 24 hours. Then the next morning, I get a call from the police station telling me that my husband had taken his own life. It was just a lot. It was a lot. It was so overwhelming that all I could hear was, Patrina, turn this into victory. Don't be a victim, be a victor. Right? I didn't know what that looked like, but inside me, there was everything in me was saying, this is an opportunity, which sounds crazy, right? This is an opportunity. What? Find the gift in this. What is the fuck? Yeah. And like, this is the thing. I heard a clip, Michelle Obama today talking about, and it was just a brief clip. And she was talking about how she teaches her kids, build small so that you maintain the freedom to build what you want to build, something like that. She was talking about the golden handcuff, right? Like people go into corporate and they choose these safe paths, which we're taught, and they create this success, which is my whole message. So just that alone, not to mention the other family, not to mention my children, not to mention the financial business, like
the employees. Yeah.
Everything.
Right?
Yeah. I felt like I was carrying such a heavy load. And because of the programming, because of the identity that quite honestly, I chose to continue, right? The achiever, the performer, the superwoman, this, that, do everything. If it is to be, it's up to me. Sleep when you die. All these messages, by the way, that were being reinforced in the financial business, but that's a whole other conversation because it's a very patriarchal system. It was so heavy.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Patrina Wisdom, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today, and then we want to talk about these amazing things you're doing with transformational coaching, with your book, The Anatomy of Abundance, right over your shoulder, right? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And of course, I thoroughly enjoyed our time together, all the times that we've met before.
Me as well. It's like we've had all these little bite-sized, engagements and conversations, and now we get to go deep, which is my favorite. So yeah, it's an honor to be here. And when you ask about starting from the beginning, OMG, I'm 52 years old, and I think I've lived 2 or 3 lives. So there's a lot, but I'm just going to share kind of the highlight reel and take you a little deeper into how I've become who I am today, if that's okay.
I'd love that. That's what we're all about.
Otherwise, this will be like all over the place.
But that's what we're all about. We're all about sort of the chicken and the egg kind of thing, right? Because everybody who's been on this podcast has accomplished something.
Yes.
The beauty of it is we get their background. We get where the foundation was built, right? Yeah. And it's really cool. So
yeah. No, I love that. I'm all about going beyond surface level conversations. So it's a perfect fit for me. What's interesting is that I don't even define myself by kind of what I do in the world. I define myself by who I be, is what I say. Yeah. And the reason is because, so originally I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, believe it or not many people are aware of that. So I'm a natural showman for one. Born in Las Vegas, raised in New York City. So I got it real honestly, right?
Double barrel.
Double whammy. There was no holding this chicken down. But I was born to a single mom at 6. She was 16 years old when she had me. And her and my dad were very much in love. So I am a product of love. She calls me her love child. She wanted a whole bunch of children. My dad, on the other hand, I truly believe maybe wanted none
Mm.
or maybe wanted a boy. And so it was a very interesting dynamic because I truly believe that my mom becoming a mother at such a young age caused her to live in, there's no nice way to say it, but a state of delusion
Mhm.
where she really was living out the fantasy of what she wanted her life to be instead of being grounded in the reality of what it was. And so for a young, someone growing up with a mother who wasn't necessarily prepared to be a mother, but had all the love in the world. And one of her favorite sayings was like, money's not important. This isn't important. All we need is love, right? It's all about the love, which on a lot of levels is true. It's one of my top core values, I think, because of that. However, there are things we need in this earthly realm, including money. And so just knowing that kind of foundational background, you can imagine kind of the upbringing. It was a lot of highs and a lot of lows. Um, I believe that my mom, because of her upbringing, had a lot of codependent tendencies. And I was her only child that actually came through, even though she had other pregnancies. And so she clung on to me like her oxygen, which at first growing up was a beautiful thing because we were like best friends. And, in essence, we grew up together. But with that came a lot of exposure, we'll say, to things that I probably shouldn't have been exposed to as a young child. And anyone who understands about psychology, we have attachment styles that develop as a result of our upbringing and all kinds of other identities that settle within us. And so for myself, I also not only had a young mom, but I grew up in a family of all women.
Mm.
So my mom had 4 sisters, 1 brother. And so they're beautiful, they're charismatic, they're extremely intelligent. And at the same time, they all struggled with relationships. They struggled with money. There was just a lot of things that felt so contradictory to me, including the religious part of things where they were very steeped in Christianity and by day, we'll say, and then by night, it was like a totally different story. So I just feel like I grew up witnessing a lot of contradiction.
Yeah.
And so it was very hard initially for me to ground into my own identity because the things that I was witnessing did not resonate, and I didn't necessarily have representations of other ways of being, if that makes sense.
Nothing to compare it to.
Nothing to compare it to, really. And so as a young child, the only thing I knew for sure is that I wanted to be on Broadway.
Mhm.
So I've always been a creative singer, actress, model, but I come from a family of creators, right? The other thing that I knew for sure is that I'm never getting married. I'm never having children. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know where to start, and I'm good. I'm an only child. I'm a Scorpio. I love my space. I love being alone. We kind of talked about this. And I believe that that was developed also initially as a protection because there was so much chaos. Like I distinctly remember when I was younger, for the time that my mom and dad were together, I remember being in my closet, like moving all my toys and my dolls into my closet because I wanted to be left the fuck alone, basically, always. And so I created my own little world in my closet and hoping no one would ever find me. And so that memory is so distinct because the way that my experience and what I witnessed how it shaped me is that I became a people pleaser. I learned to be seen, not heard in a lot of ways. I learned by witnessing that it's easier to accommodate and overextend and be what everyone else needs you to be than it is to kind of stand in your own power, have boundaries, have a voice. So I feel like I lost my voice at a very young age. And because of that, I unfortunately experienced, sexual abuse, molestation, things of that nature, unknowingly. And there was a part of me as a young child that felt like well, this is just kind of what's supposed to happen, which is horrible. You say no, but then if it doesn't stop, you just give in,
Mhm.
right? So that really was kind of the foundational identity that I had developed. And it took me at least 2 decades to kind of heal from that and start to really find my voice and exercise my voice, exercise boundaries, and learn what worthiness really is.
Mhm.
So there was a part of it that was from like the sexual stuff. There was another part of it from that deep abandonment wound
Mhm.
that my father wasn't really there. And I felt like he really didn't put in an effort or choose me in a lot of ways. So I think I grew up with a really deep worthiness and abandonment issue. I don't think I know. And so when I fast forward, met my late husband, again, never wanted to get married, never wanted to have kids, but I fell in love.
Mhm.
And we were together for 5 years. We created a beautiful life together. Everything was wonderful. And then he wanted to commit and get married. But because I had that, nope, not getting married, don't know how to do this, I went from the fawn, which was my identity that stayed quiet, people pleaser, all the things, let's make sure everybody's happy, to flight. Like, I'm out of here. Are you kidding? I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And so we broke up. We were together 5 years and we broke up because I still wanted to travel. I've always been this serious, like free spirit, nomad adventurer. Like I love new things. So I went off and I continued modeling, singing, acting, doing all of the things. And funny enough, as spirit would have it, 3 years later, we didn't talk. We didn't see each other for 3 years. There's a whole story in between there, which I'm not even going to touch on right now. But I ended up coming back to Las Vegas, where my mom and my family lived, and I reconnected with my ex. At that point, I had had a child, he had had a child, neither of us got married. And as from the time we reconnected, it was like we never skipped a beat.
Hmm.
So we ended up getting married, having
How
kids,
how'd you
not in that
reconnect?
order. What's that?
How did you reconnect?
So funny enough, my mother, who never was a huge fan of him, honestly, when I was preparing to leave London, which is where I was living at the time, she called me and she said, "You'll never guess who I ran into." And so ended up, she says, "He really wants to talk to you. Can I pass on your information?" And so she passed on my information. At that time, we wrote letters. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
Like
that
it
was
wasn't even a phone call or like a text. It was not an email, it was literal letters.
Mhm.
So she passed on my information. He sent me this beautiful letter. Somehow we ended up getting on a phone call, and it was very like just making peace and like apologizing for things in the past and just like, hey, I still love you. I still respect you. That was it. We did not continue our conversations.
Do you remember where she ran into him?
I don't. I don't. I mean, it was in Las Vegas because my late husband was originally from New York, and I met him in Las Vegas when he was attending UNLV. And so he was still there after I fled. And so they connected someplace. But what was interesting is I didn't come back to Las Vegas. I didn't go back to Las Vegas from my own.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't choose it, we'll say. This is kind of a theme in my life. There's been a lot of things that have been chosen for me.
Mhm.
Um, and then I just turn lemons into lemonade, essentially. So I'll just give you a little tidbit. So when I moved to Europe, only because it's such a juicy part of the story. Okay, so when I moved abroad, I was modeling, I was singing, I was acting, I was living my best life. You hear me? Living my best life, which also included um, engaging with super sexy European men. And so I ended up connecting with someone. We totally hit it off, like just great friends, having wonderful adventures. And I ended up getting pregnant with my first child. And so, because I was nearing the end of my tourist visa, we ended up actually tying the knot. This isn't a story I tell much, by the way. So there were
We
things we
live
could,
for those, by the way. We live
yeah,
for the
yeah.
stories that nobody tells much, like ever.
I know, right? It's
Yeah.
usually like such a short period of time. It's like, okay, we're going to skip over that part, but
Yep.
it is a really
Yeah,
great
we
story.
can't skip.
So
There's no skipping here.
yeah, yeah. So I end up finding out that I'm pregnant, and I'm like, holy crap! I'm not one who believes in, taking care of things, as you will. I am someone who always takes responsibility, and my mom had me at 16, so like, there's no way I wasn't going to follow this through. I had separated from the love of my life, as you heard, and so in my mind, it's like, well, we're never gonna get back together, and I'm never gonna have that kind of love again. This was the story that I was telling myself,
Mhm.
and so I'm like, okay, I love this person. We're great friends. We fit. Let's do it. So we got married, and I stayed over there in Europe. Um, we didn't know each other very well before getting married, and some things came up through immigration
Mhm.
when I had gone over from London to Germany to do a modeling gig, and on my way back into London I got detained for 6 hours, and they were questioning me about him. So at that point, I didn't know what was true, what wasn't. And again, the flight response kicked in, and I'm like, I'm out of here. They gave me a choice. They said, you go home now, or you stay and, like, illegally, and there would be other repercussions surrounding that. And so I had to fight to get back into the country through customs to get my daughter. And then we left. They actually sent me home. What a blessing, right? It's just interesting how spirit works. And so that takes us to the point in the story where I left off, where I land back in Las Vegas. I'm staying with my mother. It was supposed to be temporary until my then husband worked out his situation and we could go back to London. But there was something inside my soul that knew when we left that I wasn't going back. Um, and that's exactly what happened.
Can I ask something?
Please.
So you fly in, you fly in,
Yeah.
you are literally detained for 6
Mhm.
hours.
Yeah.
You're drilled about this man that you've married.
Yes.
It sounds like some of the things that they were asking you gave you pause.
Yes. Not only did
So,
it give me pause, but it really made me feel somewhat manipulated.
yeah,
And I don't know the truth and
yeah,
what was and wasn't true, but I felt like at the time I had been groomed to answer the questions.
mhm,
Have you ever felt that
yeah,
where you're like, wait, why do I have all the answers to, like, it just made me
mhm,
feel uncomfortable.
yeah, like
And I
you'd been
listened
set
to that.
up, like you'd been set up to defend,
Yeah.
right?
And back then, we weren't talking about, the scamming and the narcissism and like all of these things. So I
Right,
didn't have language. I didn't have a knowledge base to understand what was happening. And
right.
even to this day, this person had such a wonderful heart. He's since passed as well. Had such a wonderful heart and was such a beautiful person. And people have pasts. And
Mhm,
so I didn't really know, and I didn't feel like solid
yeah,
in the information that I was being presented with.
yeah. Well, it sounds like it. It sounds like what it did was it scared the you know what out of you. Like the hair on the back of your neck was standing up and you're a new
Yeah.
mom, right?
Yes,
So
that was the
you're
main thing.
so you're
I
uber
don't scare
protective.
easily. Yeah,
Well,
I
you're
don't
uber
scare easily.
protective, right? It's not. So
100%.
if it was just you by yourself, this is
Yes.
sort of the perfect storm, right? Because if it's you by yourself, that's different. But
Yeah.
you've got a baby
Yes.
and you're right.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, wait a minute. I got to do what's best for for this,
Yes.
for this
Yes.
child, right?
Mhm.
And so it sounds like you had a fight on your hands to get out of there, to
Yeah.
get back to the US.
Well, not really. And so that's the interesting part, is that I'm so protected and guided by spirit that it blows me away.
Yeah.
And at that time, I wasn't as strong in my spirituality as I am now. It was more like me still exploring and discovering.
Mhm.
But at some point, things become so loud and clear that you can't deny it
Yeah.
anymore. So before that, being detained at the airport, our place had gotten raided a few times. by immigration. So I didn't really understand. Like I said, I was getting this story, and at the time I truly believed it. I'm very loyal. I'm a Scorpio. I'm like, I'll do anything for the people I love.
Right.
But it was just then everything together, and the feeling, that gut feeling that made me want to leave. And so they didn't give me a choice.
Yeah.
So this is the part I'm correcting you on. They didn't give
Okay.
me a choice. They said, you are going back and we're sending you. So they essentially removed me from the country. And
Yeah.
what I had to fight for was to go back and get my daughter, because they wanted to remove me right away. Yeah.
So your daughter
So
wasn't with you when all this happened.
no, I had been in
So
Germany
how
modeling.
did you convince them to let you go get her?
I fought like a maniac. So I am someone who does not get angry. I don't argue. I don't fight. Like I'm so like just gracious and mild mannered most of the time. But if you piss me off, I turn into a wild animal. And I did. I'm lucky I didn't get arrested, if I'm honest, because I was a maniac. I was like, there is no way I'm leaving this country without my child, blah, blah, blah. So they gave me 24 hours to go back in and get her
But
and
you
get on
had to
a plane.
convince them to let you do that.
Yes, yes. They were ready to send me home right
How
away.
did that
They're
feel? That had to have
oh,
been like a panic kind of thing, right?
that was, you know what's interesting? I believe because I came from a lot of struggle and chaos that I've unfortunately, fortunately developed almost an immunity to it,
Hmm.
which is, it's kind of insane, but it's true. So
Almost like life prepared you for this.
for everything, like I
Yeah.
don't panic. I don't get scared. Literally, I probably, if I did not have my child, I probably would have stayed behind and fought the fight with my then husband, because that's just who I am, right? But my daughter, I believe, saved me really essentially from the whole situation, because if it wasn't for her, I may not even have
Yeah.
left, or, I really don't know what that would look like.
I don't think you would have left. I don't
Yeah,
think
so
you
I
would have left.
wasn't,
I think you would have stood up for him,
I probably would have fought the fight
but
alongside him.
because it was the way it was and you were a new
Yes,
mom and you had a baby and all that, I mean,
yes,
it's, you spend your entire life protecting him, right? Mine
yes.
are 26 and 27 now. And right. And when I look at my daughter, who's 26 years old, she's getting married next month. She still looks like she's 6 to me, right? It's like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, yeah, I get it. I mean, you'll move heaven and earth
Mhm.
for that being, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, yeah,
So I feel like the first time when I left my late husband, love of my life, that was the first time that I, on my own, made a choice, left, and reinvented my life.
yeah.
This time it was forced, right? It was chosen for me. And so I went back to Las Vegas. I stayed with my mom temporarily. I knew it wouldn't be an ongoing thing. And I really had to figure out, who am I now?
Mhm.
And what's our next step for myself and my daughter?
How did that feel? Like,
That
when you got
felt,
back to Vegas, how did you like, you mind if I ask? So,
oh,
how did you feel? Like, you were
yeah,
there, you had your daughter. This was not a pleasant situation
no,
in Europe. And you
yes,
got there, you had to have felt like you were, to an extent, you were free and were you relieved? Were you
yes, yes. And it's horrible to say, but I did. I felt relieved,
Yeah.
and I felt as if
I don't think it's horrible. I think it's human.
yeah, but I feel like also the way that spirit works in my life is that when I'm not on the right path, I
Mhm.
get plucked
Yeah,
and put on a different path.
yeah.
Yeah. So again, this has been kind of my progression to really being so strong in my own relationship with spirit. Because it gave me an opportunity essentially. To me, every ending is a new beginning. And I've always believed this. I believe everything happens for a reason. So that was kind of what I sat with. And so then when my late husband, now late husband, love of my life, first love, all of this, reemerges, and it clicked
Mhm.
right away, like we had never skipped a beat. It was just like a natural progression. And so I ended up divorcing the husband who was out of the country, not by his choice. He fought me tooth and nail, and I had to get creative to get out of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and not with the intention of marrying the love of my life, because that was never in my plan ever, right? To be married, but just to be with that person without feeling like I was doing something wrong. And so fast forward, so when we reconnected, like I said, he had a child, I had a child, they were the same age,
Wow.
right? And so then fast forward, things just like unveiled. They rolled out for us. We ended up moving in together. We just picked up where we left off. We had another child, my second. Yes. And so then we're together. Eventually, at some point, we wake up one morning. It's like at this point, there was 5 years. So total 12 years we were together before getting married. That includes the 5 years. So at some point, we wake up one morning, we've got 2 houses, 2 children, 2 cars. We've created this whole life together. And we just kind of looked at each other and said, he had a financial business, so he understood like finances and estates and all of this. And he's like, we should probably get married. Ugh. It's like, holy crap. It's like, it's kind of what everyone's been waiting for, but also it just made sense for us to do so for the family. So we ended up getting married. We planned it in 6 weeks. I think we spent maybe $10,000 because we wanted to elope. But of course, everyone around us who loves us, who's seen this whole journey unveil, they wanted a wedding, and they were willing to do whatever they could do to have us have a wedding. And so what originally was planned as an elopement in Hawaii then became the honeymoon. And we planned this wedding. So it was beautiful. So anyway, we lived a beautiful life together. He had his financial business, which I helped him build. I continued to sing and act and model, but then I also went into the healing arts, a massage therapy esthetician. I've always been an entrepreneur. I haven't had a job since like dibbling and dabbling in high school. And so an obvious next step when you're in the massage therapy esthetician industry, that healing arts industry, is then to open a spa, of course, right? So that was my vision. At the time, and you're going to love this, at the time, I really had no real business education. I didn't go to college. I didn't do any of that stuff. No real business education. The only thing I knew really about real estate at that time was our personal, our residential homes that we had purchased. And even that, I was very hands off. I was very hands off on all of the finances, even though I was supporting my husband in building his financial business. So it's almost like I was learning passively, but it's something I just never wanted.
Osmosis kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, like most women, you handle it, babe. I mean, if you think about it, we as women didn't even have the right to handle finances, get a mortgage, have a bank account until the mid to late 60s. So I was no different, especially coming from my upbringing. Like, no thanks, I'm good. Yeah. I just want you to handle it so we're taken care of. And so what the part that you're going to love is that I had never like purchased real estate or done any kind of business transaction, a big one, on my own. But that desire to have my salons or my spa at the time was so strong that I saw this place and I was like, wow, this is a great location, great setup. I walked in, asked for the owner, and negotiated a seller finance, creative finance deal to take over her salon, her spa. And it happened to be yes, right. Like no clue. I'm in my 20s, dude. I'm in my 20s, but I had the like audacity and the courage and like just a dream big enough that drove me to go in and just craziness. I had never even heard of these things before. I just went in and said, hey, I like your space. Have you ever thought about selling the business? And we just had a conversation. We found common ground. And the next thing you know, I'm a salon spa owner.
I love that. I love that story.
Yeah. So now I've got my 2 children. I'm supporting my husband in his business, modeling, singing, acting, right? Because my upbringing and my identity was to be the strong one, to be the superwoman, to be the builder. Like, this is what I grew up. This is how I grew up. This became my identity, is like, if it is to be, it's up to me. And like, I can do anything I put, which is wonderful until it becomes and enslavement, which we'll get to.
Mhm.
So anyway, I had my wonderful business, things were great. But then what kicked in for me after a couple years is while it was wonderful that I had manifested my dream of having this spa, I never actually wanted the salon side of things. And I didn't have enough knowledge about the salon side of things
Mhm.
to really make the venture as successful as it could be. So it became more stressful. It became something that I just didn't enjoy anymore. It didn't feel aligned anymore. And so I sold it. And then the next reinvention happened where it's like, well, who am I now?
Mhm.
I don't have the salon spa anymore. I've capped out on being behind the chair because I was obviously the time versus the output and the money, it just wasn't adding up anymore,
Right.
right? I could only do so much behind the chair. So I ended up joining my husband in the financial business in the interim. And I think that's where a lot of the like financial stuff started to sink in more.
Mhm.
I'm very grateful for that because if you fast forward, which I want to say may have been about 4 years later, I'm not really good with like the timelines because so much of my life overlapped. I'd be doing like 6 things at one time. But if you fast forward to January 2009, at that time we had 3 children now,
Mhm.
still had the 2 houses, 2 cars. And I mean, we had created just a really, really beautiful life. I
Mhm.
felt like a princess living in a bubble and like I had broken generational curses. Like we were married, we had these kids, we had the homes, we had, the finances together, like things were rocking. And then my husband wakes up on January 6th of 2009, puts on his suit and tie, grabs his briefcase, gives me and my 3 kids at the time a kiss goodbye, tells us he loves us, and walks out the door knowing he's not coming home. So he goes missing for 24 hours, texting, calling, no answer, no response. The next morning, I get a
24 hours.
call, 24 hours. Then the next morning, I get a call from the police station telling me that my husband had taken his own life.
Oh my God.
Yeah, crazy. And I had no clue. I did not see it coming, completely blindsided. That same day, if that wasn't bad enough, I had been to the doctor because I thought I might be pregnant, and it was confirmed on that day that I was pregnant with my 4th child.
Wow.
And if that's not enough, it was also my daughter's 13th birthday. So I had planned a birthday party. Talk about yeah,
Life
yeah, talk
touching.
about a
Yeah.
defining moment
Right.
where me being the person who believes everything happens for a reason, had, other practice with reinventing myself. This is when everything you say you are gets tested. Like,
Mhm.
oh, is this really what you believe? Is this really who you are? Now, what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
So I remember specifically this compulsion within me to just pretty it up, continue doing and delivering and being all that I needed to be for everyone else.
Mhm.
So it was almost like I took all of my grief, all of my emotions, and was like, I'm going to put them on this shelf right here. I'll get back to you when I get to you
Mhm.
because I didn't have the luxury of grieving,
The luxury, the
stopping.
time, the energy, anything,
I
right?
didn't have anything. I had
Yeah.
3 children. So talk about Mama Bear. Mama
No
Bear
way.
kicked
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I had 3 children to take care of. I had this birthday party I needed to execute, even though I found out my husband took his life that morning.
Yeah.
I had to kind of process like how I'm going to tell my children and his financial team from the business and like my family. Like it was just a lot. It was a
Mhm.
lot. It was
That's
so
overwhelming.
overwhelming that
Yeah.
all I could hear was, Patrina, turn this into victory. Don't be a victim, be a victor.
Mhm.
Right? I didn't know what that looked like. But inside me, there was everything in me was saying, this is an opportunity, which sounds crazy, right? This is an opportunity. What? Like, find the gift in this.
Yeah.
What is the fucking gift?
Well, in the midst of the storm, right? You're literally in the middle of a
Yes.
flipping hurricane. Your
Yes.
life is completely turned upside down, and
Yes.
you don't know what's coming next from
No
which
clue.
direction, right? And
No
it's
clue.
like, okay, you got two options. One is you can crawl into a hole,
Exactly.
right? And assume the fetal position, right? Or you can figure it out.
Yeah. And I mean, people expect you to fall
Yeah.
apart, right? And so I think it was just there was something in me that saw this as an opportunity to find a way to gracefully navigate through it, but also to be, again, the people pleaser, the like, let me do this for others. Find a way to be the example of what it looks like to experience and thrive beyond all of this horrible shit that would have broken someone. And so I think that really became my motivation. And I say this because it's what I've realized decades later is that a lot of the success I've had in my entire life was created from a stress response. Multiple times, whether it was the sexual abuse, whether it was, the abandonment, whether it was and then when my husband passes from suicide, like that's abandonment. That wound just got ripped wide open.
Ultimate abandonment. Yeah.
And I remember my entire body, and again, I didn't have language for this at the time, but I remember my entire body going into absolute chaos, right? So essentially it was my nervous system like overloading.
Mm-hmm.
And I was connected enough with my body because of my experience in the healing arts, right? But my trauma responses, I think that just kicked in and took over. So I honestly don't even remember the first like 3 years after my husband passed because I was taking care of my kids, putting them in therapy, sending them to grief camp, making sure they were okay. I was making sure the financial business didn't fall apart. I was trying to keep my own business, coaching, speaking, all of these things together and moving forward. And because, of course, I'm Superwoman, so why not start a nonprofit as well? That makes sense. So right, exactly, right? Now I look and I'm like, girl, I should have been there to tell you differently, right? The wise woman. But at the time, it was my default. So I started a nonprofit called Hands of Comfort Foundation to support others through emotional distress so that they didn't take their own lives. Because one of the things I don't talk about much, I'll give you another exclusive, is that after my husband passed, like months after, I realized he had actually been planning this for a few months. And I know this because I found a stack of papers and a note like months later. And I was like, holy crap. Like he hadn't been to work, to his office in like over a month. And I'm like, how come nobody like called me and was like, hey, is your husband okay? He hasn't been like nothing. Whole other thing. But from that is, I believe those were the bricks that started to build who I am today, because with more education, with more awareness, with more space, and I'll tell you where the space came from. So he passed in 2009. In 2013, I woke up one morning at this point in my beautiful 6,000 square foot house, kind of had reestablished my life, my business, everything's going well. And the only piece that was out of alignment for me is that I didn't want to be in Las Vegas. I never wanted to be in Las Vegas. I was only there because of my husband. And every corner I walked, every place I went, there were all these memories and ghosts, if you will, right? Everyone who knows me because of this relationship. And I wanted out, but I just didn't feel like I could go until that morning in January, ironically, of 2013, where Spirit said, you are released. And as soon as I heard it, I knew exactly what it meant. Called my realtor, listed my house the next day, not knowing where I was going. And something in me was like, San Diego. I didn't know anyone here. I spent a little bit of time here, but I didn't even know my way around. I put a post on Facebook and said, hey, does anybody have a realtor in the San Diego area? I connect with a realtor. That next weekend, I come out to San Diego to look at some places. The first place I look at is a condo in the San Elijo Hills area. I fall in love with it. I'm like, this is it. My realtor says, no, this isn't it. I was just showing you this kind of to get a, idea of what you liked, but this one's pending. Another story you'll love.
Mhm.
I said, no, no, no. You don't know me. I'm a master manifester. I feel it. This is my place. And she's like, okay, well, that's awesome. We'll see what we can do. Let's just go look at some other places just in case.
Mhm.
Long story short, I get approved. I do a 28-day close on the place, go back to Las Vegas. My house sold to the first person who walked through.
Mhm.
They actually bid higher than what, sorry, I had my house listed. They put in an offer, something like that. Something happened where something bidded higher. They ended up paying more for the property than I had originally listed for. And it all happened so fast. So as soon as I had that signed, sealed, delivered, I had that contract signed for San Diego, I sold pretty much everything in my home, including this really beautiful, like 7-seater semi in-ground hot tub that I was obsessed with. I was like, can I find a way to bring this with me? But I basically sold everything, packed up my 4 kids now into my Denali, and we drove to San Diego to start life completely over. I just needed a fresh start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was February of 2013 that we moved to San Diego.
So how large was the property in San Diego versus
Oh my
the
gosh, that's
6,000
the
square
best
feet?
part. I went from 6,000 square feet with backyard and all the luxuries to, I think it was like 1,500 square feet, the 3-story
Yeah.
townhouse
Yep.
type
Yep.
situation.
I've sold in San Diego Hills. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
probably know the
In fact,
exact
I've
property.
sold 3-story townhomes in San Diego Hills.
Yeah. And like, this is the thing. I heard a clip, Michelle Obama today talking about, and it was just a brief clip. And she was talking about how she teaches her kids, um, build small so that you maintain the freedom to build what you want to build, something like that. She was
Mhm.
talking about the golden handcuff, right?
Mhm.
Like people go into corporate and they choose these safe paths,
Mhm.
which we're taught, and they create this success, which is my whole message. They
Mhm.
create these lives that look successful on paper, but that they feel trapped in, right? So one of the things I say is that most of the people I know who have great success, or at least it looks like they have great success, are actually the least free.
Yep.
I mentioned
1000%.
earlier that
I've been
love
there.
is
Yeah.
yeah, I mentioned earlier that love is a core value, where freedom is also one of my top values.
Mhm.
And so for me, anytime I have to recreate, it's like, how can I recreate in a way that
Mhm.
doesn't deplete me, that allows me to maintain a level of freedom so that I can stay in love,
Mhm.
right? And so me moving to San Diego, even though I was downsizing my life, and again, no family, no friends, no support, like nothing. What it also created for me was the space. It
Mm.
created the space for me to hear my own voice. It created the space for me to not, because again, remember at the time, I'm still a people pleaser. I'm
Mhm.
still the fawn, right? And so it created space for me not have to create my life this time based on other people's expectations,
Mhm.
right? And just take care of myself and my kids. So I homeschooled my children. I was still continuing to be a full-time entrepreneur, and I got out there and started meeting new people, like, who do I want to be a part of my life in this season?
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So you have that business in Vegas that you and
Uh-huh.
your husband built.
Yes.
What happened to that? Are you
Oh,
commuting back
of
and
course
forth
I was
between
still doing it.
are you going
No,
back and forth?
no, it was an investment and insurance business.
Yeah.
It is, not it was, because I still have it.
Right.
Investment and insurance business. So what I did is I left the team there to continue and do what they're doing. When I moved here to San Diego, I rebuilt from scratch here
Hmm. That's cool.
while I was still building my personal development company, because
Wow.
I was crazy. I was like
Yeah.
literally still out of my mind. So from 2013 up until 2021, I was still actively doing that business
Mhm.
while simultaneously building my transformation business.
Wow.
And in 2021, that was when I kind of woke up and was like, okay, I've done all this shedding, I've done all this healing, I've done all this recreating. And there's still a piece of me that doesn't feel resonant. Like there's still a something I'm doing or a way that I'm living my life that just doesn't quite feel right. And I couldn't really put my finger on it. And what I realized is that I was still living someone else's dream by continuing to be active in the financial business. But think about it. This is a business I inherited. It was so entrenched with the memories of my husband and making him proud and his legacy, but it was taking up too much damn space in my life in this iteration. And so it took a tremendous amount of courage and soul searching and like a lot of healing for me to finally say no more. I decided I was going to step into a passive role with the business. Now, meanwhile, from 2013 to 21, I've completely rebuilt my business here in California. I have team members looking to me. You know, I'm leading, I'm teaching, I'm training, I'm doing all these things. And that was a huge stepping stone toward freedom, more alignment, more sovereignty.
How'd that feel?
It felt horrible in the moment because I felt like I was letting everybody down, including my late husband.
Yeah.
Not to mention the financial piece where it's like, okay, well, I've been doing this. And even though I have my business as well, like this is a significant part of my finances because in the financial business, we get paid every Tuesday and Friday. And as you know, in entrepreneurship, it's like you might make 20,000 one month and not make anything for 3 months.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
So literally the amount of internal fortitude it took to just be like, boom, I'm walking away from all of that was really intense. And I feel like
It had to have been.
honestly,
It had to have been.
I mean,
You mind if I share something with you?
please.
So I was teaching a class a couple of months ago in UTC area of San Diego. And it was a friend of mine's office. He's the second in command and he has a team. And so I went in and I was speaking to them. And one of the things I was telling them was I said, never underestimate, never underestimate the power of the person you're dealing with and what they are dealing with in terms of somebody who's deceased.
Yes.
Okay. So somebody at some point said to them, never sell this house because we were talking about buying houses, right?
Yes.
Never use a realtor, never do this, never do that. And what happens is these people inherit property.
Yep.
And they feel trapped. They feel because they feel like you were saying, you felt like you were letting your husband down and letting his legacy down, right? That is an overwhelming emotion.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to understand this. I'm like, put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're dealing with. Put yourself in their shoes, because the best way to figure out a way to solve the problem is to figure out how that person's feeling, right? And you have to get deep. You have to dig in order to get them to reveal to you what their pain is, to reveal to you what their guilt is, right? And it's unbelievable how overwhelming it feels. Like it's this guilt, it's this, feeling of disappointment, or you're disappointing them. And it's hard to describe, but I've experienced it, right? Where I've worked with people whose a lady's sister passed away, and she was left as the executor, the trustee, right? She was a successor trustee. She couldn't find the trust. Right. I spent 6 hours with her trying to find the trust in the house. We finally found it. Not where you'd ever expect to find it, right? But we finally found it, thank God, right? And that's one of the things that I want people to hear. If you have a trust, put it somewhere where people can find it.
Yeah.
Okay. Even if it's a safety deposit box, put it somewhere where people can find it and leave instructions as to where it is, right? Yeah. Because the law firm that had run the trust, sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent, but the law firm who had created the trust was now out of business.
Right.
So they didn't have a copy. We couldn't get a hold of anybody. So these are the things that I want people to think about, but specifically, I want them to think about, put yourself in that person's shoes. Yeah. You, I think at that point, needed somebody to come alongside and go, you know what, Patrina, let's talk about this. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. Because I tell this all the time. I was teaching this. When it's in here, it feels this big.
Yes.
Okay. When you let it out, it feels this big. It's like people have
Taking the
told
air
me,
out of the balloon.
yeah, it's like people have said to me, I don't know how many times, now that I've said it, it doesn't feel as big. Now that
Right.
I've said it, I
Yeah.
feel better. You know, I know this part of your story because you shared it at one point, and
Yeah.
I clued in on it. I was like, I cannot wait to have this
Yeah.
conversation with her, because it's important that people understand, especially no matter what it is you're doing for a living, it's incredibly important that you find a way to put yourself in that person's shoes, find
Yeah.
out where they're coming from, right? So, yeah,
Well,
I'm
I
glad you
think that
brought it up.
was part of the reason why it was another part of the reason why I was so tethered
Yeah,
to the financial business,
it was
because
guilt. Yeah,
not many
yeah,
financial professionals look like me. I'm 6 feet tall, green eyes, big ass afro. I have this huge energy, right? Like it's totally different. And I lead with my spirituality.
yeah,
It was totally different than the traditional financial industry, Black woman, right? All these things. And so I became a disruptor without necessarily knowing I was disrupting.
yeah,
And it was to the benefit of like a whole population of people that may have never received financial education, gotten protected, started investing, had I not been in the space.
yeah,
So there was a piece of me that was so deeply tied, my values, my mission was so deeply tied to the financial business. And at the same time, there was another piece that did not feel fully resonant, you know? So between that and uh, when I started learning about like real estate and investing and all of these things, it's like when you see yourself as an asset or a disruptor or being able to contribute so much in
mhm,
one area, and yet you're like everything in you is calling you to something else, which I decipher it like these are these things where I have skills and I can create value and I bring so much impact and I can make a difference, but my purpose, the reason I'm here, is to transform people's souls and the way they live their life based on my experiences and my the things I've learned and how I live. It was a serious
yeah,
conflict for a
it is.
long time.
And can I ask you a question?
Please.
Did you feel like you had all these people relying on you? Like
Yes.
this, right?
Yes.
This feels enormous. And I want people
My
to hear
family
this.
alone, like my
Yeah,
mother alone, being
yeah,
the only child, I love my mother and
yeah,
she loves me almost to the point of like suffocation in the past is how it felt,
yeah.
because I felt so responsible because I'm the only. So just that alone, not to mention the other family, not to mention my children, not to mention the financial business, like
The
what?
employees. Yeah, right?
Everything.
Yeah,
Yeah. I felt like I was carrying such a heavy load. And because of the programming, because of the identity that, quite honestly, I chose
mhm,
to continue, right? The achiever, the performer, the superwoman, the this, that, do everything. If it is to be, it's up to me. Sleep when you die. All these messages, by the way, that were being reinforced in the financial business. But that's a whole other conversation
yeah.
because it's a very patriarchal system. Um, it was so heavy. And because I had been that for so long, heaven forbid I ask for help. Heaven forbid I say yes and receive help when offered to me, because the controller in me had this story that it's not going to get done right unless I do it. And so
It's a
it took
loop.
a lot of work to
Yeah.
undo that story.
It's a loop and it's a lie, right? You're telling yourself a lie and you're believing it 1000%. And it's
Yep.
like, I want people to hear this. I want people to understand that that stress, that pressure, that's all what we put on ourselves. It's what
Yep.
we've perceived,
Yes.
right, it to be, and we have to be the super person. We have to be the Superman or the Superwoman, or right? Because all these people, all these entities are all relying on
On
us.
a
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That
we're
is a
so
very lonely
essentially
place to be, by the way.
it's very lonely, and we're essentially choosing to play victim,
Yep.
right? Because it's like these things outside of us are responsible for our reality, and that's bullshit.
Yeah.
We literally can take back our own lives and make new choices and rebuild from scratch at
Yep.
any moment. It just takes a level of courage that a
Mhm.
lot of people have not yet developed, and faith. faith that it's going to work out.
You mind if I say something?
Yeah,
So
please.
I've also found that if you go find somebody who's done what you've done, right?
Exactly.
That relates, they can relate to what it is that you're right. Like you
Yes.
can tell I'm relating to what it is that you're saying because I went through the exact same thing and it nearly killed me. It
Exactly.
nearly killed me. I ended up in an emergency room for 7 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
they literally said to me, they said, doing what you're doing is killing you.
Yep. And you're not
Literally.
alone.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't the doing what I was doing. It was the way I was doing what I was doing. It was the way I was approaching it. Right.
Yep.
And it was literally destroying me and it was destroying my health.
Yes.
And it was all that, I have to take all this on. I have to
Yeah.
figure out a way to make this work. All these people are relying on me. Right. Turned out, went through the whole thing, went through a major shakeup, major change, major transition, the whole thing. And everybody survived. Everybody was fine.
Right. And we didn't die. We
Right.
didn't die.
Like all that was just, I drove myself practically batty, right?
Yes.
And now that I'm on the other side, that's what you need to do, I think, is if you're in that situation, go find somebody who's been through that, right?
Right.
So like you don't know this, but I'm starting a coaching and consulting business.
Okay.
It's called Get Real with Mike. So here's
Okay.
your scoop, right? You're the first person in the world to know this, but just so you know, right?
Lovely.
So it's called Get Real with Mike. And it's literally, we're going to get real, right? We're going to sit with these business owners and have a real conversation about, I know what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
Tell me how we can help you get through this, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to dig and we're going to get deep. And we do, I've already started doing this. I didn't realize at the time I was doing it as much as I am, but you're episode 448, right?
Okay.
We've done a bunch of these where we
Yeah.
get pretty deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
get to the emotional core of where the pain is.
Yes.
And then people can release it and they can move on with their lives.
Yes.
And I know that you're about to tell us that it's the best thing you ever did, but it was also the hardest thing you ever did,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. It's literally, it was like I've walked through fire many, many times.
Yeah.
And I even made reference to it in my TEDx talk that I
Mhm.
did back in like 2014, 2015, that, diamonds are created from pressure. Like they go through an extreme process of like burning and all this grueling stuff to
Mhm.
become as shiny and sparkling as they are. And I honestly feel
And
like
coveted
that's been my story.
and coveted,
Exactly.
valued and coveted,
Exactly.
right?
So I think it's one thing to have the awareness like we're doing in our podcasts and, in the books and things of that nature. It's another thing to have an example and a guide.
Mhm.
I actually have stepped away from the coaching label and stepped more into the guide label
Mhm.
because I feel like a guide has been there. You
Mhm.
have as well, right? A
Mhm.
coach, a guide has been there and is going to walk with you through it.
Mhm.
And so it's not only having the awareness, it's having someone or a space or being in the right environments to see possibilities of what the next season could look like.
Mhm.
And so that's literally like yourself, you found your purpose through all of the pain. And now all of my IP for 25 years plus has gone into my anatomy of abundance framework, which is essentially how I've lived my life, how I've recreated and reinvented over and over again. And when I realized that consciously, I put that into the framework, which then became the backbone of my programs, my coaching, my retreats, essentially the books.
Mhm.
So the first volume of Anatomy of Abundance, the burgundy one, that is like introducing and really going deep on what the framework is. The book that I have coming out in November, which is the yellow one, that one is moving you from success to sovereignty. So this is the how. Like, what
Yes.
does it look like to live this anatomy of abundance framework and a shift from creating from scarcity and victimhood and old programs
Mhm.
to stepping into an embodiment of abundance. Like, what does it look like to reclaim your sovereignty? What does it look like to be able to choose again, start over you know, and do it successfully and according to your own values, what you truly desire, who you really are, not who you've been pretending to be, or, you know, the who you've become as a result of other people's expectations.
Right. Well, we build it, right? And we go this path. We take this path.
Yeah.
Okay. We build it. We build it up to, we build our reality to this, and
Yes.
then we're stuck.
It's a
Right?
crossroad.
Yeah, you're stuck and you're like, wait a minute, this is not what I was. Okay. It takes on a life of its own. And all of a sudden you realize it's not what I wanted. It's
Right.
not what fulfills me.
Hmm.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
like all of a sudden you have to get to a place to where you go, wait just a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
And am I going to choose to continue living my life by default,
Right.
according to the matrix, right? Like
Right.
living in the matrix, or
Right.
am I going to take the other pill? Don't remember if it was the red or the blue,
Yeah.
but take the other pill and step into like this totally unknown reality
I've
that
never even
I
seen the
get to
Matrix. I don't know
create.
what color the pill was.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you gotta do that. You'll love it. But I think it's like those of us that are being called right now, there's a lot of people who are sitting in the space in between. And I'm calling this in my work the identity lag,
Mhm.
where you're not who you've outgrown the identity of who you were. You're really uncomfortable in it, right? Like you feel it. You're like, ooh, something needs to change.
Mhm.
Can't quite put your finger on it, but you know something needs to change.
Mhm.
So it's the space between who I was and this success that I built from
Mhm.
that program and from that programming and who I'm becoming, but I don't have a total clarity on what that bitch looks like.
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
And so you're sitting in between with like little pieces, but not the full picture. It's like, how do you sustain? How do you stay grounded? How do you create from that space?
How do you guide yourself out of it, right? Because you're in like the
Exactly.
DMZ, right?
Yes.
You're stuck in this sort of
Yes.
middle land thing, and it's
What do
like,
they call it when you're not quite in heaven or hell? What do they call that space? I can't remember the name of it, but there's like that in between space that they talk about. Anyway, doesn't matter. It'll come
yeah,
to me once we're done
yeah.
talking.
So as soon as we
But
stop trying to think of it, right?
yeah,
But I understand what you're saying. It's like it's this kind of uncomfortable place, and you're
yes,
sort of not sure where you're not sure quite how to get out of it.
yes,
Like you need a guide, you know?
exactly. Thank you. And that's why I'm calling myself a guide, an
Yeah, that makes
embodiment
sense.
guide, because I specialize in that sweet spot,
Yeah.
that identity lag, that space in between, because it's a huge opportunity. Most people, when they're in that space, they're either going to continue doing what they've been doing. And even though they look successful, they're not really living,
Yeah.
right? Or they're going to choose something different and go down the path of recreation, which is scary as hell and at the same time equally rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta get through it to get there, right? You gotta go you gotta go through the trials and tribulations to get to
Yeah,
right? So, do you mind if I share something with you?
please.
So, 26 years ago, I'm not joking, 26 years ago, a friend of mine called me. She and
Mhm,
I have been friends now for 33, 34 years, somewhere in the
mhm,
neighborhood. And she called me up and she said, "I need you. My students need to hear what you have to say."
mm,
And so I went down to Southwestern College, spoke to her first. It was the first real estate principles class she ever taught. I talked to her. I spoke to her class for a couple hours. It went really well. Afterwards, she walked me out to my truck and she said, "In 25 years, I'm going to retire. And when I retire, I want you to take my position at Southwestern College."
oh, wow.
Right? When somebody says that to you, you're like, wow, 25 years from now, that's quite right. And I asked her, I said, why? And she said, because you're the only person on the planet that I trust to continue my legacy.
Oof.
Okay.
That's a big
Here we
responsibility.
go with the legacy thing again, right?
Yes.
So last year she calls me, not joking, a year and a month ago, calls me up and she says, "It's been 25 years. I'm ready to retire. You need to go." This is the spirit thing, okay?
Yeah.
You need to go back to school, finish your bachelor's degree, you need to finish your master's degree, and then you're taking my job.
Wow.
Okay. So I just finished my bachelor's degree in May.
Hmm.
I'm 59 years old,
I
Patrina.
love it.
Just finished my bachelor's degree in May. I start my master's degree 2 weeks from yesterday,
Okay.
right? I'll finish that May of 27,
Mhm.
and then I'm taking her job. Talk about spirit, right? It's like, really? Now, I've been on their real estate advisory council for 26 years. So we've
Mm.
stayed in touch, and I've,
Yeah.
added value, like I've been down there and as a guest and, spoken and all that. But man, this is just, and I just taught my first class in May
Ooh.
for them for
Yeah.
Southwestern, and it was unreal. I thoroughly enjoyed every second of it. So,
I mean, and I want to bring presence to this, that in 26, 27 years, she didn't identify anyone else that was qualified to take on that role because you were the chosen one.
yeah.
And so what I want everyone within earshot of this podcast to understand is that we're all here for our own purpose. We're all here for a reason. There's something that we have that cannot be like replaced.
Yeah.
There's like things that are just that are ours,
Mhm.
period, right? And I think one of the things people struggle with most is like their worthiness,
Mhm.
right? Their confidence and like, well, if I let go of this, is there going to be something else? Yeah, you might actually be clearing space for what's actually yours.
Yeah.
And
And
so
that's happening
that's
more
huge.
that's happening more than people realize, right?
Yes.
That's happening more, that conversation that people are having is, if I leave this, is there gonna be something else? You know what I mean?
Replace
And
it.
it's like
Yeah.
the answer is yes. Now,
Yes.
it's gonna take effort, it's gonna take
Yeah.
sacrifice, it's gonna take all that, right?
Hmm.
But the payoff is worth it. It's
Great.
right? It gets you to a place like, I've wanted to be a professional educator my entire life.
Really?
My entire life, and I've
Wow.
literally been teaching for 34 years. I just
Yeah.
haven't done it as a college professor, right?
Oh,
Now I
yeah.
am one.
You know
They
what's
literally
funny?
they literally call me Professor Litton at campus.
It's like a full circle.
Yeah.
And the same thing for me in the sense that a couple years ago, I reclassified my corporation as a transformational media company because I'm like, oh, I'm writing books, I have my podcast, I have this, I have that. I'm media, right? Like, let me reposition and see what other opportunities are available. What I remembered is that when I was a kid, I wanted to be a journalist.
Mhm.
But I didn't think I was smart. I wasn't great at spelling. I always loved writing, but I didn't think I was that great at spelling and punctuation and grammar, like all that stuff.
Mhm.
And so I tabled it. And on top of it, I was like, I'm not going to school. And I knew college wasn't for me.
Mhm.
Right. And so it's interesting how life has evolved to the point where now we don't necessarily have to do all those things. And now I'm in media. I have the podcast. I'm doing all these things that I never thought I would do. And it just speaks to what we're talking about, that what's for you is yours.
Yep.
Maybe not now, maybe at another season of your life, but the more we can embrace our unique gifts and our power, and it's not arrogance. Some people look at it as arrogance, but when I walk into a room, I own my space. Like, I know who I am, I know what I'm not. And I have this philosophy that if I'm for you, we're going to resonate and we're going to connect and it's going to be great. And if I'm not, I kind of like reflect off
Mm.
people who don't need to be in my space, and I am so okay with that. I'm no longer the person who has to make everybody happy, and I actually sometimes get a kick out of triggering people because I'm like, oh, that's not my people. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Life is fun when you step into that space.
Yeah. It really is, and it's worth it.
It's so
It's
worth it.
worth going through the trials and tribulations that you have to go through to get there. That's what I
I
want
think
people
we
to
live in a world
understand.
of instant gratification, especially with internet and all of the things, social media. Everybody wants what everybody has. We're coveting what other people have,
Yeah.
but we don't know the inner workings of that. We don't know the reality of their life. And so sometimes the people who have even simpler lives are way more happy, way more fulfilled than these people that we're looking at and wanting to be like. So for me, I would much rather feel happy, successful, free, loved, not stressed, sovereign, all the fun things, juicy, right? Lit up, and not look as successful than to look successful and be freaking miserable.
Yeah. And it's more prevalent than people realize. Okay. So like one of the most popular classes that I've written and I teach
Yeah.
is on behavioral styles. And
Yes.
what's fascinating is when I coach and consult, the very first thing that I have my clients do is they take a behavioral assessment. Well, that
Mhm.
behavioral assessment gives us two readings. One's their natural style and
Right.
one's their adaptive style.
Yes.
So the one
Mhm.
behind closed doors and the one after they walk out the door.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are almost never the same.
Mhm.
There's conflict going on everywhere. That conflict is where that struggle comes in, that unhappiness, that stress, right?
Mhm.
You think the world needs to see this from you, when
Yes.
really what the world's looking for is how you are behind closed doors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That conflict adds all kinds of strife, all kinds of stress, all kinds of issues
Mhm.
that people shouldn't put themselves through.
Exactly.
Period.
They just need examples of what it looks like to
Yeah.
reject those old
What's
systems.
fascinating to me is I told you you're episode 448. We have a lot of life stories on this podcast,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
We're in 81 countries worldwide now.
Mm.
Okay.
Wow.
We've been listened to, downloaded, and viewed over 6 million times. Here's the thing. I can tell you emphatically and
Mhm.
without reservation that we're more connected technologically than we've ever been, but we
True.
feel more disconnected.
Mhm.
What people are looking for is authenticity.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where you're the same behind closed doors as you are when you walk out the door.
Mhm.
Okay. The
Mhm.
world sees the same person you are when you're home by yourself,
Mhm.
kind of thing, right?
That's like the biggest compliment I hear is there's 2 things I hear when people, like, follow me on social media and they meet me in real life. They're like, "Oh my god, you're exactly how you show
Mhm.
up on social media."
Yeah.
That's one, and the other one that I hear is like, "Oh my god, I didn't know you were so tall."
Yeah. Your superpower is your authenticity.
Yes,
It really
100%.
is. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I often say that the future of leadership, especially with AI and just all the changes, all the social media, all the inundation, all the distraction, right? Is the future belongs to those of us that are leading in the most human and authentic way. That's what's going to be the differentiator. It's going to be what makes us stand out because nobody can be what I am and how I show up in the world. And so here's the biggest gift I believe one of my superpowers now is that I'm really good at giving people permission, like giving them the space. I create these sacred spaces that allow them to feel safe and comfortable enough to try out new identities. And then the environment and the communities I create then are like reinforcing and giving constructive feedback and da 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 so that you can find and step in and try on your new identity before you go out into the world, right? So we're like in it with you, helping you to reinvent
Mhm.
your life, your career, your motherhood, whatever the hell that looks like, and we're
What's
also creative and visionary that we help you to see possibilities you didn't know existed.
You mentioned AI. AI stands for artificial intelligence,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is the opposite of authenticity.
True. That's true.
Pretty
That's true.
fascinating.
It
You
is.
also mentioned something earlier
Yeah.
called IP, and that's intellectual
Oh,
property.
yeah.
For people that
Mhm.
don't know, it's like I
Thank you.
said, we're in 81 countries worldwide. So,
Yeah.
in case anybody's not sure, it's intellectual properties of the IP that you're talking about.
Yes.
So,
Exactly.
I cannot thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience.
Yeah.
You and I could talk for 3 days.
I know.
So, I love this. So, let me ask you this. If
Yeah.
somebody's interested in being on your podcast, if somebody's interested in buying one of your books, if somebody's interested in hiring you to help them transform their lives,
Yeah.
how can they get in touch with you?
So the low hanging fruit where you can find all of it is patrinawisdom.com.
Okay.
And then that'll shoot you off to wherever you're interested. By the way, you can also hire me as a keynote speaker.
Yes.
Yes, I would love
And
to
it's
come speak to your group.
it's Patrina, Patrina, no,
Wisdom.
Patrina, and then
Yeah.
wisdom.com.
Yeah. Yep. Easy to find. And I'm
Yeah.
Patrina Wisdom on all social platforms as well. So
Perfect.
I keep it very simple and I'd love to connect.
Mind if I throw one thing out?
Please.
So if anybody's listening to this that's on LinkedIn,
Yes.
where there's a contact info thing,
Mhm.
put your contact info in, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of a really simple thing, but if you want to be in business, you really should have your contact info in there. If it's not in there,
Mhm.
the default is LinkedIn sends you back to the profile.
Yes.
If you click on the link, you go back to the same profile you were just on. So you put them in a loop. How are
Yeah.
they going to do business with you if they're on a loop?
Yeah.
Just saying, right?
Yep. Good tip.
Patrina, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike
You.
Litton Experience. This has been a lot of fun.
It has, and I feel like we have so many more conversations to have
We
now.
do, actually.
Well, thanks for
Thank you.
having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.